Hey, peace and blessings, everybody. I wanted to share with you a story from an experience that I had just yesterday with a Muslim man. While spending time with this Muslim man, because it was a requirement of the work that I was doing, and he was actually working on the task itself, so we were together for quite a while. He felt compelled to share with me about Allah and Muhammad. And he expressed to me that he didn't want me to be without an excuse come Judgment Day. And that when Judgment Day comes, I wouldn't be able to tell Allah that I didn't know about him, because Allah is going to replay this moment in my life where one of his children came to me to tell me about him and Muhammad and his way to salvation. It was the most amazing experience and conversation that I've had in a while. So while we were talking, what I began to ask him is to tell me more about Allah. Now, as a Christian, no doubt I was tempted to focus on Jesus being the way, the truth, and the life according to my understanding. I was focused on trying to argue why the Bible was more credible than the Quran. But thankfully, there was a different approach that was shown to me. And that was to simply ask him to describe the person and character of Allah. He first started out by telling me Allah is the creator. He created all things, he says, including us. He created humans, the birds, the mountains, the fish, the animals, the plants. I say, go on. And as he began to describe to me the power that Allah has to create, I then asked him, is Allah forgiving? He said to me, yes. If you come to Allah and ask Allah to forgive you, he will forgive you of all of your wrongs. I said, okay. I say, tell me more. He said, well, you also have to be afraid of Allah. I said, afraid? Why do you have to be afraid of Allah? He said, you have to be afraid of Allah's hell. I say, tell me about Allah's hell. He said, in Allah's hell, you burn forever. You don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. Fire. I say, wow, okay, so you're afraid of Allah. He said, yes, you have to be afraid of Allah. Now, he's a married man, has several children. So I'm listening to him. And in my mind, I'm comparing or contrasting the Allah that he's describing to me and Jehovah, the God who Jesus Christ came to reveal. In my mind, I was just contrasting the two, like creator, yeah. I know Jehovah to be creator. Powerful, yes, I know Jehovah to be powerful. Forgiving, I know Jehovah to be forgiving. But then he said to me, you have to be afraid of Allah. So I queried just a bit. I said, okay, well, you're married. Do you want your wife and your children to be afraid of you? He said, no. I said, okay. I asked him, at what point in your marriage and as a father to your children, does being afraid of you bring about closeness? He said, no. I say, so when they're afraid of you, it really helps to drive them further apart from you, right? He said, yes, further apart. I said, okay, well, the God who Jesus the Messiah teaches us about doesn't want us to be afraid of him. In Hosea chapter 2, he says to his followers, the day will come when you will no longer refer to me as master. Think about a slave-master relationship. It's transactional. It is one that's there's such a power dynamic that usually the slave is subservient, not because they volunteer to be or they want to be, but because they know that the power will be used against them to inflict some type of pain and punishment if they are not in obedience to the master. Going back to Hosea chapter 2, verse 16, He says, the day is coming where you will no longer see me as your master, but you will see me as your husband, your spouse. I believe that day came when the Messiah came and revealed his Father, because John 15, he says to his followers, I no longer refer to you as servants and slaves, but as my friends, talking again about intimacy. So I began to explain to him that Jesus, the Messiah, teaches that we don't need to be afraid of Jehovah. We can run into the arms of Jehovah. I also asked him, can you talk with Allah? He said, no, only through the Quran. I said, oh, okay. So Allah doesn't talk to you? He said, yes, but only through the Quran, where he's spoken through his prophet Muhammad. I said, oh. Well, the God who Jesus, the Messiah, came to teach us about is a God that we can talk with, and he talks back. He actually talks with us. You all know that Hagar, the Egyptian woman who was used to have a child on behalf of Sarah from Abraham, when she was kicked out of the house, distressed, panicking, all alone and afraid, the angel revealed himself to her. And after having the exchange and after encouraging her spirit and giving her direction, she said, I now know you to be the God who hears. We're told in the book of Hebrews that we can go to the throne of grace boldly, with confidence. Jesus came to reveal the God who hears and who speaks. I love it in the book of Job, whereas God spoke to Job, how at the ending of that book, Job said, I've heard of you with my ears from other people, but now I see you, I experience you for myself. And it was a wonderful conversation. There was two of them. One of them was doing all of the talking, but the other one was listening, and the other one said to me, he said, wow, you ask good questions. But this is the reason why I share with you all this story. I believe we're living in a time where it's no longer effective to go verse for verse, toe to toe, me defending what I believe about God or about the Bible or about religion against what you believe about the Bible, about religion, about God. No, we're living in a time where it's important for us to learn how to listen to each other. There's a reason why you believe what you believe about God. There's a reason why I believe what I believe. And the most effective conversation we can have around this most important subject is to first listen to one another's story. Better understand why and how we came to the conclusions that we're currently at. And I hate to say conclusions, because many of us, our understanding about God isn't a conclusion, it's just a pit stop. It's where we are currently until further understanding is revealed. But moving on from listening to each other, it's not about battling over whose Bible or whose book is more credible or my conviction versus yours. Something that we all share in common, even the atheists, is a God view. And what it's boiling down to, friends, is do you have a view of a God? First of all, do you have a view of God that is accurate? Do you have a view of God or of a God that is trustworthy? Do you have a view of God or a God that is deserving of your not just your worship, but your devotion, your highest affection, your life? You see, as we were discussing yesterday, I realized that he has a view of God which has more similarities, or that has some similarities to the view of God that I have. But then there were some distinct differences. And as he left me with the view that he has, he assured me that you must be afraid of Allah and his hell. I thought to myself, wow, this is a common view that Christians have too. So especially to my Christians, if your view of God is the same view that Muslims have of Allah, how could you share with them anything differently than what they already know unless you have a different God than what they have? Notice what Psalm 71 says right here. I love this question. It's in Psalm 71, verse 20, actually verse 19. It says, all your righteousness, O God, is very high. You who have done great things, O God, who is like you? Who is like you? That's a question. So if the God that you believe in is the true and living God, when compared to other God views from other religions, there should be something distinctly different about your God. Do you know him in that way? Or do you have the same exact God view that has been traditionally held, that is based on misinterpretations of the Bible, that is based on popular opinion, but not based on the truth as it is found in Jesus the Messiah? You know, in John 17, when Jesus was praying, he said, Father, I have glorified you. That when he says I've glorified you, that has to do with I have manifested the truth about you. I have revealed you. As I close, I want to encourage you with this. The time has also come for us to interpret the Old Testament prophets, everything that's written from Genesis to Malachi, through the New Testament Christ lens. Matthew through John. So as Hebrews 1 tells us, God in the days of old or in past times spoke to the forefathers through the prophets, but now has with finality spoken through his son. We have read the Bible from beginning to the end, and we've interpreted it according to events, the flood, Sodom and Gomorrah, and so on and so forth. Now it's time for us to study the life of Christ, go back to the Old Testament and all of its events, and examine them through the lens of Jesus. And let me tell you this, if it doesn't line up with Christ, I don't care if Moses wrote it, Joshua wrote it, Elijah wrote it, doesn't matter who wrote it. If it doesn't align with Christ, the Son of God, who alone rightfully, accurately revealed his Father's character and nature and ways, then we need to throw it out. Because that means that there's either an issue in the way we're interpreting the event, the passage, etc., or there is possibly a mistranslation, which has happened. It happens from time to time, despite the great intentions of the translators. Sometimes they mistranslated a word or a phrase that kind of gave us a different idea. But friends, my question that I want to leave you with is this. Is your God view the Christ view? And let me assure you that if your God view is not the Christ view, God who is compassionate, God who only seeks and is committed to do us good, never harm, God who is patient, God who is gentle, God who is committed within himself to his integrity, meaning he doesn't tell us to do one thing while he's doing another. He doesn't say forgive those who have wronged you 70 times 7, love even your enemies. But I, being God, this is what I do to my enemies. I punish them. I inflict immeasurable pain upon them, but I want you to love yours. No. It's not the God that Christ came to reveal. So if our God view is not the Christ view, then it's the wrong view. Be encouraged. Moving forward, the emphasis on this channel is going to be more of re-examining with the hopes of reshaping our God view. Because John 17 also says, while Christ was praying, that this is life eternal, that they might know you, not know about, know you, the one true God, and Jesus Christ, your Son, whom you have sent. Be blessed.